This radio show is brought to you by All In Cincinnati. All In Cincinnati, an equity coalition, is sponsored by BI3, Greater Cincinnati Foundation, the Carol Ann and Ralph V. Hale Jr. Foundation, Fifth Third Foundation, Interact for Health, and the United Way of Greater Cincinnati. Thanks for tuning in.
Hey Cincinnati, welcome to the All In Cincinnati radio show, where we are all in it together to eliminate disparities and inequities for Black women in Hamilton County. I am Denisha Porter, and I am honored to serve as the Executive Director for All In Cincinnati, and I'm your host for our segment today about criminal justice. Criminal justice is defined as the delivery of justice to those who have been accused of committing crimes. Most of us are more familiar with the criminal justice system, the series of government agencies and institutions such as the police, prosecution, and defense lawyers, the courts and corrections charged with preventing other crimes, rehabilitating offenders, and moral support for victims. The topic of criminal justice is important. Reports by government agencies, industry groups, academia, and advocates estimate that approximately 1/3 of all Black Americans are somehow involved in the criminal justice system. Fortunately, 3 amazing Black women are working tirelessly on various criminal justice reform stages in Cincinnati and across the United States. Our first guest is Iris Roley, Cincinnati Black United Front member and Cincinnati Police Collaborative Agreement Project Manager. Yes! For decades, Iris has been at the forefront of police reform and accountability in the greater Cincinnati area, which has received national recognition. Iris, tell them about yourself.
Well, good morning, Denisha. Good morning to All In, and good morning to all the beautiful ladies in the studio. So to talk about Iris Roley, you have to talk about Iris Roley in almost 3 pathways: a wife, a mother, a business owner of 4, and the advocate and activist for the Black community. And while I don't shuck and jive and I don't step back from who I represent, everyone knows that it's all Black, right?
Yep, all day.
Because in each community and every race of people, they have their own advocates and activists. And so I am that. Denisha, I was born on the front line. My grandmother was the Vivian Kennebrew. So we protested and was designed to be who Iris Roley is today. Born and raised in the Black house where Black folks would come together to strategize on how to make Black communities, Black life better. And that was in the community of Avondale. And so that was through the early 60s and the 70s and up into the late 80s. The design of me was by my community. So I'm very intentional about what I do. I do it with such intention that everyone knows that when I'm stepping in the room, I'm advocating and very active for Black people. But I could not get this work done without being partner and owner of Roadshow Awards and Graphics with my fantabulous husband, the Jesse Roley. He every morning, go get him, baby, I got you. Because that stage.
He is such a protector, a pusher, an advocate for Iris. He loves Iris. And I love that. Yes, I'm so serious. I love that.
I would agree with you. Most days anyway, because marriage gives you your ups and your downs. But we will be celebrating 29 blissful years in July, God willing. Thank you. So we just celebrated 22 years in business of Roadshow. So we started Roadshow the same year that we started to become active around police in the community. And he said to me when we were starting Roadshow, you won't have to worry about what your job says. I am the boss. So y'all can call my boss if you want to. I got tricks. You're not going to win.
No, I just
You just got that, right?
Got that. Hilarious.
And so without having Roadshow, I could not have been as intentional, as loud and proud that I've been around this particular work as it relates to the police. And we believe in the criminal justice sphere that is the very first line, right? Mm-hmm. Because police are told what to do. Laws are created for them to carry out. So I am grateful that you have the other 2 ladies here to talk about the other parts of the system that need just as much as reform as police do. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Iris. Okay, so our next guest is Trina Jackson, Director of the Hamilton County Office of Reentry. Her team promotes collaborative services for all returning citizens by identifying common barriers, advocating for community resources, and offering a network of support. The Hamilton County Office of Reentry is a national award winner for their reentry pod model, which we will learn about later in our show. But can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Trina?
Well, I am a native of Cincinnati, and I've been here all my life, and it's amazing to just see the changes that have happened in Cincinnati. Just for people of color, people not of color, just the growth in Cincinnati and the people that I've had a chance to have in my life and be around, especially being a former member of Greater New Light Baptist Church, and then, being involved with Lincoln Heights Baptist Church, and now Zion Global Ministries. It's all of it's tied together, and all of the work that we do to try to build our community is tied together, and we have to do it together. So I'm excited to actually be in the role that I'm in. It's a privilege, really. I mean, not everybody would say that, but it is a privilege.
It is. Definitely.
It's a privilege for me to serve people that have been impacted by the justice system. And so I am thankful for the role that I have. So thank you for inviting me to be part of this conversation.
No problem. And we're grateful to have you as well. All right. And our final guest, last but not least, is Kristina Jolly of the Bail Project, serving people incarcerated at the River City Correctional Facility in the Hamilton County Common Pleas Court and the Hamilton County Municipal Court System. Kristina is known as the bail disruptor, and she was drawn to address issues that negatively impact society at an early age and is obsessed with leveling the playing field for all. Kristina, you want to give them one quick fact about yourself?
Well, one quick fact about me. I think that I love this work because every day I work with some of the most amazing people, and I mean the population that we serve. These are individuals who are true survivors of economic despair, whatever life throws at them. Maybe their methods are not always what society would approve of, but these people learn to survive, and they make it work for them. So there's a lot of strength in that. Basically, what we are fighting at the Bail Project is the fact that society has turned poverty into a crime, a criminal activity. If you don't have money, if you're poor, you're going to be in jail a lot longer than someone who has those resources. So that's what we seek to disrupt. And that's why I love this. That's why I'm grateful for the two ladies sitting alongside me, that we are all pulling together, and our army is only getting stronger.
I love it. I love that you had all of that to say. When I asked you earlier, you're like, yeah, just going to have a couple of words.
Right. The bail disruptor.
All right, so let's talk about it. Criminal justice. So let's go to you, Iris, first. How would you describe the state of the criminal justice system in Greater Cincinnati, policing, prosecution, the courts, incarceration, and reentry?
Wow, that's a very loaded question, DeBoss. Let me say this. I think it is as concerning and overwhelming with the opportunity to correct, not just here, but across the globe. Right? Systems were designed to control people in specific ways. And so specific things were put into place. Now, if we drill down to Cincinnati, I'm just going to focus on where I've been focusing for the last 20 plus years, which is the police, if I may, if that's okay, because you have experts here who can tell you about the other parts specifically. And that's what we need to hear. Right. We need to be educated on who does what so we can understand when there is a problem, how to fix the what is the problem. Right. So when we started with the police, remember in 2000, we had 2 and 24. Most people get the story a little twisted because they automatically jump to our sweet baby Timothy Thomas. But it wasn't Timothy that got us into federal court. It was Jeffrey Irons and Roger Owensby, two black men in the year of November of 2000. Now, back up just a second to the summer of 2000. The Cincinnati Black United Front we became an organization because 14 of the 34 downtown restaurants decided that they wanted to close during Jazz Festival, the highest revenue event that the city has ever had.
Exactly.
And I think it's where are we at, 60 years or something of having that?
Yep.
And so 14 restaurants came up with a letter, took it to the regional chamber, said, y'all, not me. You black people don't know how to order, you steal silverware, you're disruptive, you don't know how to tip. They had 14 reasons why they wanted to close. Now, what we didn't think about at that time and as a larger collective was that these 14 downtown restaurants did the same thing that Liz Rogers did. Went and got assistance from the city and the state. And so while you took my tax dollar and then you intentionally said, we're going to close when all these black people come because we don't know how to serve them chicken and french fries and we just think that they don't know how to order and we don't think they know how to come and sit down and order a meal and know how to tip appropriately based on service or based on the gratuity system that you have, all of these things. So that's why we initially came about. Subsequently, because of that, we shut down several of those restaurants. You see that Jeff Ruby had to go. He had to move. The Masonette was shut down. Oh, God, what was the German one where they wore the kilts all the time? We shut them down. Yeah. It was a couple of them that we shut down, including the Masonette, the 5-star restaurant, because they were egregious in what they said. And there was a 1964 law that was passed that said you just can't get people's tax dollar and then say you're going to be discriminatory towards a set of people. Now, that was in the summer of 2000. In November is where we had our 2 and 24. And the black community was simply sick and tired of being told that these killings were justified by the police. Now, remember, Roger Owensby had served 2 tours of duty. He had just gotten home. Where Roger was murdered is 2 blocks away from where my business is today. So I bypass that every morning. And I promised his family, like we promised all the other families, that we were going to make some change. Jeffrey Irons, who was killed first by CPD, black man, suffered from mental health issues, stole something from a store, ran, they chased him, shot him under a car. Black community said, Black United Front, can y'all do something? You all have been loud all summer long. You're taking on the heavy hitters. Can you do something? We were like, you damn skimpy, on behalf of black people. Now, before that, there were 13 blue ribbon reports. So, we can't claim that we started the fight. We just stood on the shoulders of those who had started the fight before us and took it the next step. Just like somebody else is going to come and say, we're going to take this even further.
Right, exactly.
So we decided that we were going to see what the landscape was in the city of Cincinnati for black people, and we wanted to do something different. We were already studiers of our history, so we knew that treaties and agreements didn't last unless you stayed at the table, unless you added certain language to it that they could not get around.
Right.
And that's what we did with the collaborative. We negotiated with the city for 18 months. We collected all types of data from black people. We created 8 stakeholder groups. We really said, come on, y'all. In order to get this done, we invited the police and their families. Come on, let's talk.
Let's talk about it. Right.
And what we found was that everybody truly said they wanted the same thing. But what people won't say is that black people are taxpayers too in this city.
Exactly.
We want reciprocity on our dollar.
Yes.
I want my trash picked up. I want my streets fixed. I want my police to treat my children. I was just talking about the Water Boys Brothers in Motion, right? You don't see that type of treatment in Hyde Park when Lil Mary is selling lemonade. Don't nobody ask if does she have a permit to do that. So stop, coming with extra for us. Anyhow, I digress. Get me going.
We got a whole show.
Yeah. So what we put in place was at the same time we had those cases, individual cases, and this is where I want people to really understand why the collaborative was such a great tool. It's the only one in the country. It's the only one that's attached to the Memorandum of Understanding in the entire country. The collaborative has a class in it that says all African Americans and or black people who are perceived as such, who live and walk on the streets and thoroughfares of the city of Cincinnati, and who come into contact with CPD and are their agents. The other part of the collaborative that gives us that class, because you won't find any other law that has black people attached to it or perceived to be black, right? Because we have to look at that too. But the other part part of what the collaborative gives us in paragraph 13. It says, look at all of other society ills. So that's where we can come aligned with reentry and bail, right? And who's running for prosecutor and what type of record that they have. What is education doing for us? Where is housing at? What are all of these other systems where Black people are on the bottom or top if it's negative? And then how do we begin to address that? So with the collaborative, we were able to settle 14 outstanding lawsuits. Bam. Most people don't know that. And then we were able to focus on the force, the entire police department. So while people believe that because, as in Memphis, Tyree Nichols' family, and they need tremendous help, that case is going to fix the police department. No. The collaborative was focused strictly on CPD. The unfortunate part of the collaborative is that it's just for the city. And it's not for other municipalities, although we've had some success in getting some things done in a unified way so that we can begin to hold people accountable. And until y'all come up with a system where y'all make me chief of police, I'm going to sit at the table.
Do you want to be chief of police?
Girl, we need our own police department.
Oh.
We need.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Pre-Civil War, we used to have our own stuff. So we really need to have our own stuff. And if you look around the boss, you'll see the children's every
She
time.
gave me a new nickname.
Every time the children build something, they get their own police. University Hospital, they have their own police. The college has its own police. We need to be about figuring out how we move our tax dollar into our own system that we build trusting on. Because some people do need to go to jail now. So I'm not anti-police. I'm anti-bad policing. I'm anti-discriminatory policing.
Exactly.
I'm anti-policing treating Black people in a way that they get to abuse their powers and lock us up into the system we call mass incarceration. So that's what we've been doing for the past 20 years, and I think Trina said, and my sister here said that they were blessed to be in the space. I've been in places that I've never thought that I would be. I've done some work that I never thought that I would have accomplished. I even have white police officers tell me today, Mrs. Roley, if it wasn't for you, and I appreciate the Mrs. because the Mrs., the Misters get disrespected in our community. I'm not alone here. I do have a baby daddy. They would say, I do. I love him. And so, when non-Black people can walk up to you and say, thank you for that work, it has helped me see my job differently. And that you hear us too, because it's not just hearing community, it's hearing police also, right? And hearing the city administration, understanding the state role, and then the federal role and how police roll it's just been, I could do this work, but I would wish we could remove the death, the destruction, and the trauma part of it. And I wish I didn't have to do it. Wish I could just focus on the grandkids now. But it's a necessity.
It is, and you do it well. And
Thank
I
you,
applaud you, seriously.
Well, I got folk like you, the boss. Get it done, girl.
Right, she will. All right. Do you guys have anything else to add to that? How would you describe the state of the criminal justice system in Greater Cincinnati?
Actually, I would describe it as in process. It's definitely not complete, and we're definitely not in the place we should be. When we look at equity, we look at preparing people when they before they come out of prison or jail. We're not doing enough of that,
Right.
And so that's an area where, of course, I could talk all day about, how do we prepare people to stay out of the criminal justice system, because that's my goal, and I feel like, if we're able to have more conversations about that and actually put resources behind it, we could see a whole lot more change.
So how is the system affecting Black Cincinnatians and particularly Black women in Cincinnati?
If y'all don't talk, I will. I swear to goodness, I will. So let me say this. As a Black woman and a mother of 3 Black males, and as I said, a grandmother of 6 now, and about to have another one, another baby boy, the system impacts especially Black women in the most harshest ways that you can ever imagine.
It does.
We are traumatized, re-traumatized, victimized, dehumanized, separated from, taken granted for, used as stepping stones, and then abused when we are in these spaces to make change. And I'll give you an example.
Hold that thought. We need to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
Reentry is a process that should begin prior to release from a correctional facility. Connecting with the community resources such as employment, housing, and health care can be extremely challenging for men and women that have been incarcerated. The Hamilton County Office of Reentry is a client-driven referral and support organization that promotes collaborative services for all returning citizens by identifying common barriers, advocating for community resources, and helping them navigate life back at home. The program was established to increase public safety, reduce recidivism, and save taxpayer dollars. Seasoned professionals can help you locate resources such as legal clinics, shelter and emergency counseling, GED referral classes and testing, employment job placing, medical and dental health care referrals, and substance abuse treatment referrals. The best time to request help from Reentry is while incarcerated and immediately upon release. Contact Reentry at 513-946-4304.
All right, we're back with the All in Cincinnati radio show. I'll kick it to Iris.
Yes, ma'am. So you were talking about Black women and this and the impact of the systems on Black women. And so what I was alluding to before we went to the commercial break is that all the work that we put in, and then who we are as Black women and Black mothers, Black aunties and Black grandmothers and Black sisters. So the criminal justice system has been part of our lives some type of way from growing up to adulthood. As you see that now all three of us have spent a tremendous amount of our adult lives in the system. But I want to talk about one way that most people don't talk about, especially when you're on the front lines and you're fighting. The sacrifice is real.
Right.
So I can remember my husband and I being in juvenile court. Our middle son was having some issues, and the juvenile court magistrate was like, Mr. and Mrs. Roley, this is not about the collaborative. This is not your Black United Front meeting. This is not police reform. When we didn't even bring it up. And we realized at that point that our child was about to be sacrificed for the work that we were doing. We were talking about 14-and-a-half-year-old having some hormonal issues, running away from home. We were not talking about a child stealing cars, murdering. We were talking about some simplistic issues. Now, when your child runs away, the rule is you have to go and report, right? So that, if anything happens for liability's sake, and you want to make sure that the people who are supposed to be looking for your child is looking for your child.
Exactly.
Had never experienced the juvenile court system before, not as a child and not as a parent. So the system was so disruptive to our lives that it shook me at the core, because I then began to realize that they're coming for me because I'm trying to make change for my people in this city. And our son had to sacrifice for 3 years. And when I talk about sacrifice, Kelly Brinson, my first cousin, was killed by UC police in 2012. At the same time, we were trying to continue the work, the continuous improvement, as Sister Trina said, on the police department. So it is real, right? My husband lost his job because his wife was extremely vocal. Plus, we had the baddest protest signs.
Right.
He's the printer, right?
Right.
I didn't say that, but I'm just saying. And so, the sacrifice is real.
Right.
But out of that came Roadshow. And we realized that in order to stay at the table, in order to do the work, that we were going to have to sacrifice some things, right?
Right.
And that meant me going from being room mom when Jemai was 7 years old at Kilgore, to being out on the front lines, to being the partner at Roadshow, being missing a lot, not being able to mind my own business and mind my own, you know what I'm saying? And when I say mind, I mean literally mining, making it work as the only Black. And so the sacrifice is real, and Black women are in these spaces. We're doing tremendous work, but the sacrifice is tremendous as well.
I truly believe that too. You guys want to add to that?
Definitely. We look at it at the Bail Project from a pretrial perspective. So these individuals have already been arrested. They are being detained. They're awaiting the outcome of their case. And what we see is definitely traumatizing. It's traumatizing for me. When I go into that jail, it emotionally and spiritually, it does something to you.
Feel it.
So you see individuals who are sitting in jail and realizing that they are about to lose everything. And what I mean by that is, if your family can't come up with that money to post for you to get out, you are going to sit there and you're going to lose your job. And with that job, you're going to lose your housing. And what about my kids? I dropped them off at school this morning. I don't have anybody to pick them up. So now we've got children's services coming to get my kids. And getting them back is not as simple as, hey, I'm out of jail, give me my kids. We got to talk about a case plan. It could be anywhere 9 months to a year.
Wow.
Best case for you to get those children back with you. And they may go to strangers in foster care if you don't have grandma, auntie, someone
9 months
to
to
do.
a year?
It could be, depending on the case, because we've got to work a case plan and make sure you're okay to deal with these children. You know, you haven't been convicted of anything yet, but you've got to prove that you didn't do whatever you are accused of. So this is all happening before you're convicted, before you even see a judge. You know, these things could happen to you. Meanwhile, maybe the person you are in an altercation with, maybe they had the money. Their family will post. Their life won't skip a beat, and they will move on. So you're in jail. You're going to not have the best cuisine available. The conditions...
That's a great way to say it.
the conditions may be less than, or are less than sanitary for you. You're in there with people who suffer from substance abuse, mental health issues that are undiagnosed or untreated, who may be going through detox. But you're going to be there, right in there with them. You're going to spend a good portion of your day in a cell. If there's no money on the phone, you're not going to be able to call your family. You know, do you call your family and say, hey, you know, I need you to get me out. I guess we won't be able to pay rent this month, which means we won't have a place to live, or I can just sit here and lose my job. That's a heck of a decision to have to make.
Right.
Or to spend the grocery money doing that. You know, one thing that really touches the core of me is a client I had recently, a young mother, first baby. She was incarcerated. Her baby was 8 weeks old. She was incarcerated, and she was breastfeeding her child. It was so traumatizing for her. So she just had this baby. So we've got the postpartum thing going on.
Right.
Now we're separated from our baby.
Right.
And our milk is drying up. So this bonding thing that she had worked with,
Really
you know, a lactation consultant to do and learn how to do this, she wanted to do so badly, that's gone. You know, they're not going to give her a breast pump. You're not going to pump in jail and think you're going to, you know, that's not going to happen.
You can't pump in jail.
So, not that I'm aware of.
Maybe that's a policy we should look at.
So, not that I'm aware of. I can't say 100%, but I'm not aware of the fact that you can. And if it was available, she wasn't aware of it. So that opportunity is lost to her forever at this point. Fortunately, we were able to help her and get her back with that baby. And fortunately, she did have grandma who could take care of the baby and that kind of thing. But with the African American population, we're seeing people who are scarred by this. Even if they are not convicted, I think that environment takes a piece of you that you may never get back. It touches a deep part of your soul, and you may never recover from that. And that's why we, as a national organization, we come in and we want to help with that. We want to minimize that trauma for people. We can't remove it altogether. That's what the fight is about. But we want to make that as minimal as possible and support these individuals as they heal from that, as they try to heal from that. We want to give them that hope that we're working with you. We're going to do what we can. We're not going to let you down. We'll support you to the best of our ability to get this behind you.
Thank you so much, Kristina. Are there any other resources that you guys can talk about that are available?
To women?
To anybody.
To anybody? So it's interesting you talked about the woman's experience, and you talked about that history. The first experience I've had with the justice system was when my uncle, he had alcoholism problem, right? And so I remember driving up to the workhouse, big white building, and he came out with his bag in his hand, you know? And so that was my grandma having to deal with all of that, you know, and how to support him. And so one of the things that, you know, we acknowledge at the Office of Reentry is that not everybody has family support, you know, and when we see women, just the increase of women that are engaged in the criminal justice system, we have to think about how do we support these women, you know, because they're coming home. And, you know, we have organizations in the community that will work with women, but we need more, right? Of course, we have Women Helping Women, but they're, really focused on violence against women. And that is something that I think the larger percentage of women that are incarcerated have had to deal with some form of violence towards them. And so we can't not talk about it. We really do have to talk about it, and we have to continue to add more resources, because from where I'm sitting, there aren't enough resources for women. There aren't enough programs to support women. And we need to do better. We need to do better at the level where women are incarcerated, as well as when they get home in the community. So, but there are organizations that are growing, and coming up every day that will support women, but just not enough at this point.
D-Boss, these two ladies just said something that really have vexed me, because if we're going to, as All In, talk about, pumping for women, that not only impacts the mother, but that impacts the child.
The health.
The health of that child.
It does.
And we know that is extremely critical, that first year.
Yep.
And then the second piece, when Trina talked about her grandmother, I think we all can talk about an experience, whether going to, and it used to be where you could go visit, and it was almost like you were having some type of get-together. You could take food in, but now the restrictions it has become totally different. And when you talked about being incarcerated, a lot of people, especially Black people, and probably Black women to a higher number than what we even know, health conditions arise from being in close proximity of other people for long terms of time.
Right.
And we don't ever get to drill down on that, because then the health disparities become because of access and a lack of health insurance or health care.
Yes.
And so we really don't know what we don't know. And even as it relates to violence in women, Black women are now at the top of the list for violence. And I know that even Women Helping Women having a hard time getting Black women to utilize the service, although they utilize our data. The service isn't reciprocated because we are fearful for whatever reasons, historically, culturally, why we won't go. Or maybe we need a Black Women Helping Women or something else in addition to, because the trauma that you talk about that is deep in our
and
guts,
it's real.
and it's layered and layered and layered and layered some more. And then the last piece I want to say to Boss, and I'm going to be quiet.
You're fine.
That as a grown Black woman doing this work, you are oftentimes disrespected because everything was being designed and led by non-Black people who want to tell you what your needs are. And so oftentimes I spent a lot of time the first 10, 15 years, going back and forth with people. Stop trying to tell Black people their experience with the police. We can tell you. It's nice that you want to interpret. But yeah, you wanted to interpret. You do some type of interpretation of the thing. Just listen to me. Don't hit me with what I hear you say. Just hear what I had to say.
Yeah,
it's real. Right. It's real out here. So I think for me, I spent a lot of time battling folk, and then you have to battle folk that look like you, that want to say that Black women should not have a space in a part of a space in the design of a resolution. And it's still real. Cincinnati is a small town down by the river. We're the gateway to the South. Baby, it's real.
Wow.
Our mentality, the internalized oppression here is still real. Although we're growing, I still love y'all, but we got work to do. I just wanted to say that to some of the pieces, because when Trina talked about going to the workhouse, we knew it was right there where River City sits now. That's where the workhouse was. It's one of the oldest prisons in the United States of America. Wow. So yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
I just wanted to second y'all, because y'all bad. Y'all doing it.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies. Let's take a quick break, and when we return, we will talk about criminal justice reform. Thanks.
Need help paying bail? You may want to reach out to the Bail Project Cincinnati, a project serving people incarcerated at the River City Correctional Facility in the Hamilton County Common Pleas Court and the Hamilton County Municipal Court systems. During the beginning of COVID, a Hamilton County administrative judge signed an order to release as many people as possible from jail. The jail was at double its capacity at the time when the order was signed. The number of people incarcerated pretrial in Hamilton County has more than tripled between 1970 and 2018. Black people are incarcerated at a rate about 3 times higher than white folks. To date, the National Bail Project has paid bail for over 28,000 people and restores the presumption of innocence, reunites families, and challenges a system that criminalizes race and poverty, and is on a mission to end cash bail. Visit bailproject.org/Cincinnati to learn more.
Welcome back to the All in Cincinnati radio show. Today we are talking about criminal justice, and our guests are Iris Roley, a Cincinnati Black United Front member and the Cincinnati Police Collaborative Agreement Project Manager, Trina Jackson, the Director of the Hamilton County Office of Reentry, and Kristina Jolly of the Bail Project. Let's continue our conversation by talking about criminal justice reform. What can be done locally to reform or improve the criminal justice system?
You know what? I'm going to say the first thing we need to do is truly go back to the presumption of innocence. Because someone is placed in handcuffs does not mean they are guilty. So we have to go back to that. Since the Bail Project launched in 2018, the Bail Project has secured the freedom of approximately 29,000 people with our 30 sites throughout the across the United States. And that's a mere drop in the bucket to what needs to happen. We use our revolving bail fund, which means that if we bail Trina out, when Trina comes back to court, we get that bond money back when her case is done. And then we can use that money to bail the next person out. And it's amazing what that level of responsibility does. When we tell people, when you come back, we'll get that money and we can help someone else in here.
Right.
People hold that to themselves and they feel responsible. When you have a 95% return rate, which should tell people, even though that individual doesn't have a financial stake in this, they have a moral stake. They're invested and involved and they want to come back. And we offer support to them.
Right.
So that it can be as simple as maybe you don't have transportation. So we can get that transportation for you. Make sure you get to and from court. Maybe you don't know that you can get mental health counseling and support because you have things going on with yourself that make it hard for you to get out of bed in the morning.
Right.
We can help you get connected. Substance abuse, same thing. That is not a deal breaker for us. People will admit all the time, yeah, I use daily. Well, let's look at your crimes. Theft. So this is a crime of necessity. I got to have that fixed. I don't want to be sick. So I need to do that. Well, let's treat what the problem is. Let's treat that. Let's talk about that. Let's get you some help. And we are blessed to have community partners who will accept someone right out of jail with no insurance, bring them to us. We'll get them into treatment if they want that. Are people obligated to do that? Absolutely not. It's not a deal breaker. We're not going to not help you because you don't want to go to counseling. We're not going to force you. This is all voluntary.
Options.
Yeah, but we want to support you. We're going to call you and check in. Are you doing okay? Do you need anything? Do you need a ride to court? Don't forget, you have court that day. Some people just don't manage tasks very well. I am chronically late. I mean, I don't know that I can ever be.
Though. You were here first.
Do you know what a fight it was? It was horrible. I had to wrestle with the devil to get here on time. But I mean, I'm chronic, and I don't know that I'll ever be in recovery for that. Oh, I am in recovery because today, like you said, I was on time. I was early.
You were way early.
Yeah, I know, right? So there's hope for me. But we need to start embracing that. And one thing I want people to realize, it could be any of us. Any of us could be sitting right there. And I look at this fight, when we help individuals, I want it to look like this person is going to leave that jail. Very few people are doing life. I want this person to be better than when I met them. I want them to know that you're a human being. We have faith in you. I want that person, I want to help them to the point that I feel comfortable with them walking down the street beside my child. And realize that these individuals could be, they're going to cross paths with someone we love. And we want to give them that help. We want to support them. So I think that's a huge part of reforming this system, recognizing that these are not cookie cutters. very individualized
Everybody's
people.
an individual. Yes.
Right. We need to support them. It's not we need to get them straightened out. These are not inmates. This is Mr. Brown, who has a wife and children. This is Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith. She's got, she's raised kids on her own. She has done this alone. Maybe she's a widow. Maybe she has 4 or 5 baby daddies or whatever, but she is a human being. There could be all kind of trauma and things that led to that. So we have to take some ownership of this and look at the causation of these situations that our society, that all of us are complicit in, and support individuals. And that's where the reform starts, individually, taking that ownership and realizing it's not an us and a them, it's we.
It's us.
It's we, yes. It's all of that. We are a union. That's what we do. That's what we need to be focused on. That's where the healing, the reform starts. So, and I can't say it enough, the Bail Project, we fight with these organizations, and I don't mean physically. We don't fight physically with people.
We can't.
But
though. We can't.
well, no.
Somebody might get punched in the eye.
Don't bring this up to Iris.
I know. But we want to disrupt, and that's what I like about my title. We are going to rock the system. We are going to keep it unstable. We're going to make it uncomfortable. We're going to raise some chaos. And part of healing and growth is painful. It's going to be uncomfortable, but that's how you grow. That's how you grow. We don't grow by sitting still and being comfortable and under your little blanket. We got to pull that cover off, and we have to identify the things that are killing our community.
Yes, I love that.
The
Iris,
boss.
you want to jump
Chris
in
is over here talking about I'm not going to say a lot. And she is vexing me, let me tell you.
Impossible.
Listen, the super sister power is coming out of her. Listen, and I'm feeling it. But Chris says something that is tremendously important when you're trying to talk about reform and to begin to understand what that is, right? And that is root causation. And so first off, we have to understand what white supremacy and racism lies in all of this. And once you get a clear understanding, and then who owns that part of the problem, or the crime triangle, as I call it, because that's what police refer to as the crime triangle. So racism and white supremacy is not owned by us. No. We can't fix that. That's on them. That is on them to do. So you have to own your part of this crime triangle. And so when we understand those things, then you can begin to understand what it is that you're trying to fix, right? And then if we understand that there are those people and organizations that are out here historically that have been watching and looking and trying to poke at, how do we make equity in these systems that were rooted out of white supremacy and racism?
Right.
How do we do that? And so what we have done over the past 20-something years, in addition to what was done before we got started, because, again, we just stood on the shoulders of our ancestors, of Black folk who said enough is enough and in their time did what they could do, was we decided that we were going to take a complete look at the Cincinnati Police Department. We wanted to deal with its culture. We wanted to deal with the policies. We wanted to deal with the procedures. We wanted to deal with discipline. Yeah. And then that's how you deal with people.
Yep.
Because people come into the space, right, with their own biases, with their own baggage, with all of that. But if you set the stage of what your expectations are.
The foundation,
Now remember, we're talking about a taxpayer paying service.
Right.
We pay for policing. We're not begging. We're not doing any of that. We're demanding equity. We're demanding equity for all Black people, whether you're male, female, one-eyed, short, tall.
Only you.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your income level is, what your sexual orientation looks like. This is about Black people, because when we studied who was being impacted negatively, yes, it was Black people. And now we see that our Black children inside of the system, whether they're arrested by CPD or Coleraine Township or the sheriff, that they are being treated in an inhumane way. So what do we do in the city of Cincinnati? We organized, and we understood that getting through to the culture of policing was going to be difficult. But how do you backdoor your way into that? That's where you begin to take the policies and procedures. What we did was we took over 400 stories. We took the complaints from the community. We turned those into policy. We took the policies and turned those policies into training. We attached that to performance, into the matrix. How you get a raise. Right? What do these things look like? And then psychologically, what we did, well, philosophically, what we did was we attempted to change the culture by changing how police. And that is by using SARE, problem solving, using data, being very focused. So if you come into this room, let's just say Crystal punched somebody in the hallway, because Crystal, she's C-boss too, right? Maybe and then she came in here and sat down like, I ain't do nothing. And here comes the police. Are they going to arrest all of us? Are they going to look at the person that's sweating, that's out of breath maybe, that's got a little nick on their hand and say, can we talk to you, Miss C-boss? You know what I'm saying? And not come in here and disrupt all of our lives and traumatize all of us. Now, we can understand that interaction and then do it in a way like you would do it if you were in Hyde Park, if you would do that at all. I don't know. I'm just asking. So that is what we believe has changed the culture. Now, how can I quantify it? Well, in 2001, CPD arrested 35,000 people. In 2020, it was 11,000. We have reduced use of force by 50%.
Wow.
So less interactions get you less things that could happen in a negative way. Because guess what, y'all? We are taxpayers. So we pay for it on the front end, the back end, and in the middle. So we have less lawsuits that we have to pay for. When those things are settled, that's taxpayer dollars.
Right.
So we have reduced injuries to citizens, injuries to officers. We've begun to help the community understand that they have power in this. So whenever we're doing Freedom Fridays, whenever we're having meetings and I'm asking for input, we can get things done. We even changed the FOP contract 2 years ago. Nice. We wanted 6 things negotiated. We got 3. And I'll just go through those quickly. So this is how you begin to change culture again, right? To change policies, to change procedures, change guidelines, and then change people.
Right.
People go on off. People retire. I ain't going to say the last thing I want to say because y'all going to be like, ooh, that's pretty harsh. But we got 3 things in. So one, we wanted to change arbitration. We wanted it to go away because we had seen historically in this city and across America that if a bad outlying officer gets fired, then they can go through arbitration and gets back. What happened? They negotiated that out of 15, we all get to pick 3, and then their decisions would be anonymous so that nobody could arbitrate. Nobody could arbitrate a shop because that's what used to happen. The police would go get the arbitrator that would rule in their favor. I would if I had that type of power. Right? If I had that power, right? Because that's what racism is, power and control over people. It's not a thought. It's not how I feel. This is about power and control. The second thing we got the arbitration done. We wanted to deal with expungement, meaning anytime an officer dealt with a citizen that it would stay in the officer jacket for the entire career. Well, then it was 3 years. The then city manager negotiated to 7. We were like, okay, cool. We can deal with that because we felt like if an outlier was doing some bad stuff in that vein, that they would continue to do it and we would be able to see it. And that's how you track officers, early warning tracking systems. And we have that in place 3 ways. The third thing we got was this system called peer-to-peer review. So let's say if C-Boss was the chief, right? And Iris did something wrong and I went to Chris and went to Trina and said, C-Boss gave me this discipline. Guess what they used to could do? Say, forget that. Throw it out. What does that do? One, it doesn't help you track an officer that may have issues dealing in the urban core because they may be from suburban somewhere, right? Or that all they've ever seen about you or Hispanic people or short people or pregnant people or homeless people is something that they saw on TV, right? Right. What was I just
tracking?
No, what did I call it?
Arbitration.
No, we talked about arbitration. Expungement. Yes. Sorry about that, y'all. Sorry about that. So now we got 7 years where it stays on their record. No, we got through that. We were talking about the peer-to-peer review.
Yes.
It is totally gone.
Oh, wow.
It has been removed. The 3 things that we didn't get, we wanted more young people to weigh in. We wanted them in the room to watch the arbitration process. We didn't get that happen. We wanted the city to incentivize living in the city as a police officer, because the state has said that you can live in any county adjacent to Hamilton County. So you can live in Indiana. You can live practically anywhere, right? So we didn't get that in. And again, we didn't get to get more from the community. We spent 6 weeks in 2020 collecting data from community, asking what would make a healthy police department. But we did get those 3 things in. That was the first time we went to the contract, because now, remember, when you negotiate, you're negotiating. And when you're negotiating with police, they want stuff. And so they got some raises that could be problematic, for the entire system. So you have to balance that. The last thing I would say to your very important question is, how do you get reform? Where is it today? What does it look like? Is that people have to organize and people have to set goals, and they need to know exactly what it is. And if you don't know, take the time to find out what it is that you believe the problem is, and then how you're going to go about it. I bet you that there's probably an organization or some individual working on that right now. None of this stuff is new. It just kind of flips around, and they add stuff, like the state is adding more felony charges that you can be charged with. I think it went up 400%. So we need watchdogs on all levels, federal, state, local. We have all these small towns around us where we live and populate. We need to begin to organize for ourselves. And about ourselves, and never, ever be afraid to say, this is what we want. We are taxpayers. And I will continuously say that to people, because people look at me and say, why are you doing that? I pay taxes on multiple levels, and I need reciprocity on my tax dollar, and so do my people.
Iris, you made a very good point, and that made me remember that it made me think of access that we have at the jail. And you talked about information and people knowing and becoming aware of what's available to them. And one of our big, accomplishments is that now at the Hamilton County Justice Center, in their kiosk, the Sheriff's Department has allowed us to put our referral form on that computer. So individuals who are there can refer themselves to us. And they don't have to rely on family or friends or the public defender to do that. They'll fill out the form. It comes directly to us, so we can start interviewing them, talking with them, seeing whether or not we're able to help them. And I think what Iris said about people knowing that gives them power. Some people don't know, and worse than that, they don't know how to find out. So people feel powerless and they give up. But this gives them a sense of power. It connects them to other people who can connect them outwardly. So that is definitely a huge step in reform. We have major access to our clients through the Sheriff's Department, and that helps us so much in our journey. That is, I think it's unprecedented what they have done for us and allowed us that kind of access to help the population that we serve.
Chris just brought up one other thing. Voting is critical in this work.
Yes.
Because I believe it's the sheriff who is the sheriff currently, and I have to be clear and transparent. I sit on her advisory board. That this access is allowed to happen. And it's only one tool in our toolkit, everybody. We don't have to spend all day long talking about it. Just get registered. Just get registered. Know where you're supposed to go. And if you need to discuss the issues or the people, first in your mind, think about what it is that you want, and then listen to what these individuals say. If they're not representing you, they don't get to have you color in the box by their name. Don't vote for folk because you like them. Vote for people based on what they've done and what they're trying to represent. And if it's not your interest, don't give them your vote.
And don't be afraid to ask people. I think ignorance is something that we all suffer from at some point. But that's not a bad thing. If you don't know, ask a question. What does this mean? What is this about? Go to the internet, look it up. So those are things that, people really need to focus on doing and not be ashamed to do. There's no dumb question.
Come on.
I love that. All right, well, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we'll have lasting words from all of our panel guests today. Thanks so much.
The Center for Social Justice is the regional catalyst for police reform efforts between communities and police departments in southwestern Ohio. The Black-led initiative, established in 2020 after the tragic deaths of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd by law enforcement, is housed at the Urban League of Greater Southwestern Ohio, an anchor institution serving Black communities since 1949. CSG collaborates with local communities and policymakers to advocate for police reform, voting rights, policing in communities, education equity, and health equity. CSG's advocacy is focused on 4 key goals: reducing use of force, ensuring police accountability, implementing community oversight of police departments, and eliminating racial profiling practices. CSG executes this mission through policy advocacy, data collection on local policing practices, and developing community-centered solutions to ensure the commitment to reform are carried through. To learn more, contact Managing Director Gabrielle Fletcher at 513-281-9955. Beyond Guilt began as an idea by Ohio Justice and Policy Center Executive Director David Singleton, a celebrated civil rights attorney and law professor. Beyond Guilt, launched in 2019, is now a statewide advocacy project meant to help incarcerated people who have been rehabilitated and are ready to rejoin society. This project helps these individuals see that their story doesn't end with a guilty sentence. The mission of Beyond Guilt is to transform our punitive legal system to one focused on justice, redemption, and humanity for those overpunished. Beyond Guilt will partner with prosecutors, law enforcement officers, and crime survivors who can help convince courts to release prisoners through various avenues. OJPC attorney Tiffany Smith represents a specific subset of Ohio's incarcerated population, women, particularly those who are survivors of domestic violence. To learn more about OJPC's other areas of work, visit ohiojpc.org.
The All in Cincinnati radio show is back. We are here today with Iris Roley, Trina Jackson, and Kristina Jolly, who are all working to support those involved in the criminal justice system and reform policies and practices that disproportionately affect Black Americans, especially Black women. All right, I'm going to kick it over to you, Iris. Tell everyone how they can contact you and access your programs. How can people learn about Cincinnati's collaborative agreement and the ongoing work of all that what you're doing in the community?
Wow, thank you, Denise, and thank you for this powerful show. I'm so motivated to continue to work after being around y'all today. So one way you could get a hold of me is, of course, I think my cell number has become a community number.
It is, definitely.
It's 513-800-6925. One day I'll be 1-800-IRIS. Or you can...
We should get you a number for real.
Yes. Or you can email cbufleadersfreeworld@gmail.com, and the young folk will get your email. Now, to engage us in the ongoing work, email us, and we will email you out what we're doing. This coming September, we are pulling together all of the data and information to do a report out on the 5 years since the refresh.
Yay.
It's been 5 years. And so the community will do its report out based on what has been put out and based on what has been done. Or you can go to the city's website. There's a whole page on the collaborative, the MOU, the refresh documents, all that good stuff that people need to read first if you can. And if you need additional language, if you have barriers, we can read it, put it on tape for you. There are things that we can do so that people can understand. But those are the ways you can get me. Lastly but not least, you can always call Rose Show.
That's true.
Awards and graphics, yes.
And then, Iris, you have a documentary, don't you? I remember you showing it at a community event. Can you tell people how to watch that, too?
Can I say the name? Because y'all don't want me to say more cuss
I don't
words.
think so. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, I didn't, it's in the Bible. It's in the Bible. So, and I didn't make the title. So, and it was actually done by April Martin, who is a Cincinnatian, but she lives in Oakland right now, and Paul Hill, the director, who lives in Columbus, and it's Cincinnati. And when you see it, and it was taken from Mississippi, the name was taken from Mississippi. If you understand that song by Nina Simone and why she named it Mississippi, I won't say it again. But that is the documentary. You can go online and look at it, and it gives you a historical view into Cincinnati early 2000s, the Roger Owensby case, Timothy Thomas at the same time, and a whole host of players who are no longer in elected office or serving as judges. But it gives you a look into what Cincinnati looked like.
Thank you, Iris. All right, Trina, how can people learn about the Hamilton County Office of Reentry and your wonderful programs?
Thank you. Everyone can go to reentrytoday.com and visit our website, or you can reach out via phone at 513-946-4304. I'd be happy to talk to anybody. We're here to do that with you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then Kristina, what's the best way to connect with you?
So I'm going to follow Iris's lead here.
You got a 1-800 number?
Well, not yet, but I am going to give my cell number if people want to make direct referrals, and that is 513-764-2913. So they are more than welcome to call us, and we can talk about whatever the issue is. We can talk about whether or not we're able to help and walk individuals through that process. They can also use our website, www.bailproject.org, and you can do self-referrals right online. Again, the potential clients that we have at the Justice Center or River City, more than welcome to use that kiosk and do a self-referral. And, we can communicate with you that way, come and visit you or do a video interview with you to see what we can do to help you. So you're not powerless because you're being detained. People are more than welcome to do that. We are also on Facebook and Twitter, and I think we have TikTok. So we've got all of that going on. So people are more than welcome and encouraged to reach out to us.
Well, the Bail Disruptor is on TikTok. Right. So thank you, everybody, for listening to the All in Cincinnati radio show. We hope you join us next week. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful rest of your week.